So surprise, surprise, Louis Theroux has produced a new documentary about the settlements in Israel for the BBC. Of course, it's going to be nothing more than impartial, letting all sides just speak and letting you be the judge. Of course, it's nothing like that at all. It is, as Honest Reporting put it, let me just quote you their words. They put it better than I could. They said, Louis Theroux's new BBC Settlers documentary claims impartiality, and what it delivers is a slick propaganda film where Israel is the aggressor, the settlers are sociopaths, Palestinians are the voiceless victims. That's exactly right. And I figured that out within the first 1 minute, not even, of watching the documentary. And Louis Theroux kind of sits there in his kind of super condescending way, just having that face at everyone like that, just asking them, those questions in that condescending voice, where it's really a destination kind of journalism, where, there's a narrative that he's actually trying to push, although he's looking like trying to, purport to be just this objective bystander. But he is anything but in this documentary. And before I just unpack a few of the things that Honest Reporting highlighted in his documentary, I would like to say that there is a documentary that I produced about Israel settlements with a wonderful man called Roger Walters, not Roger Waters, Roger Walters, where we went to Israel and went to visit all the settlers. And we spoke to people on all sides, spoke to people on the Palestinian side, we spoke to lawyers, international lawyers. Natasha Hausdorff is in it. And we deal with all the questions from a historical perspective, political, legal, moral, and a human perspective as well, because they are so dehumanized. And at the ultimate core of this is about Jews living in their ancient God-given homeland, not going there by force, but actually the only ones who have been willing to accept that throughout all of Israel's history, which Louis seems to clearly have missed, is the Arab side has not wanted to live alongside Jews in the Jewish people's homeland. He makes it seem like it's totally the other way around. Anyway, the documentary that I produce is called Settling the Facts, and I'll show you a quick trailer for it, but I'll do that after we go through some of Louis's documentary content. So first of all, here's just the first minute or so. Have a watch.
Square kilometers. The West Bank is home to around 3 million Palestinians, most of them living in large cities with limited autonomy under the Palestinian Authority. The Israeli military occupied the area in the Six-Day War in 1967. Since then, hundreds of thousands of Israelis have moved in to form settlements.
No context on this. It just sounds like it's a war. Without giving any context to people, they're just going to assume, what, Israel just went in there and captured the land? And they don't have autonomy. Why don't they have autonomy? The only reason is because the Arab side has tried to wage war against Jews living in their ancient, historic homeland. If they would have accepted that, there wouldn't have been any displacement. There wouldn't have been any Nakba, quote unquote, catastrophe that they talk about. It's like Israel, in 1967 in the war, Israel just came in, and does he not want to mention the fact that there was an Arab plan to wipe out Israel from all the surrounding nations? And Israel came in as a defensive act. It's already you can smell the propaganda, the narrative that's being spun within the first few seconds.
To expand Jewish presence in the region, or simply looking for cheap housing.
God forbid Jews living in Judea. God forbid.
Often they start out as a few tents or caravans pitched by ultra-ideological settlers on hilltops next to Palestinian towns. These are known as outposts. They are illegal under Israeli law until they are authorized as settlements. But both settlements and outposts are illegal under international law. Square kilometers.
That's actually not so clear cut as is explained in the documentary I produced. But even if let's just say it was unlawful, they're not going in there and kicking out Arabs. They're going there to live in their rightful homeland. And it has been the Arab side that has said, we will not accept a Jewish state. We will not accept Jews restoring sovereignty in their land, even though Arabs are not, this is not the indigenous homeland of Arabs. They're there from the colonization, the Islamic conquest of the land from the 7th century onwards. And Israel and Jews have always said, we're happy for you to live here under our restored sovereignty. Absolutely. But just don't try to kill us. And many of the quote-unquote settlers, some of them are doing it just because they're Jews wanting to live in, yes, cheaper parts of their homeland. But also, some of them are saying, I'm sure intentionally saying, we don't want to have, we want to do things that stop ever-growing Arab-only zones, right, in the Jewish homeland. Because you're aware that the proposed Palestinian state of the future would be one that is free of Jews. And that's meant to be your partner for peace. It's completely absurd. And so they may well be trying to block a two-state solution if that's what's going to be a Judenrein Palestinian state. And I say good on them if that's what their plan is, because a Palestinian state would be a jihadist state. It would mean the end of Israel, God forbid. Israel cannot take any chances anymore, having tried for 100 years, when it's so deeply sketched into the soul of this region that they want to get rid of Israel. And more than that, it's actually the Jewish people's homeland, and no one else has a comparable claim. We've also always, Israel has said since its start, we're happy to live among fellow non-Jews and Arabs in this region, but with just one caveat, that you don't try to kill us. And if people have a problem with that, well, I think they need to look in the mirror. Now, the next point that Honest Reporting make is that October 7th is barely mentioned. When it is, it's framed as pretext for settlement expansion. A massacre becomes a motive. Civilians butchered in their homes are brushed aside to serve Theroux' storyline. He just touches on it for a second.
I made a film about them in 2011. But now, since the attack of October 7th, I'd heard that they were accelerating the settlement process.
Why are you filming me?
While being protected by the Israeli military.
It's all so sinister. Listen to the sinister land. Since October 7th, they're accelerating. Jews are accelerating living in their homeland. The lie that people have fallen for is thinking that the Palestinians want a state of their own. They don't. They don't care about that. What they care about is getting rid of Israel. They've created this sense of being a Palestinian people in order to destroy Israel. And people like Theroux and others have fallen for it. They wouldn't care to be conquered by Syria if it meant getting rid of Israel. If all the Jews, God forbid, converted to Islam, they wouldn't call for a Palestinian state. That proves it's not about land for them. It's not about a national self-determination cause. It's about religion, religious ideological hatred. And people like we're going to see in this next clip have fallen for it. People on the Israeli left. Here, look, he interviews Israeli critics, activists who say Israel never wanted peace. Not one mention of the many peace offers Palestinian leaders rejected.
An Israeli group demonstrating for a ceasefire and the return of hostages taken by Hamas. What are you doing here?
I think the idea of resettling Gaza is absolutely ridiculous. The question is, what kind of country do we want to be? Do we want to be a colonizing country? Or do we want to be a country that at least offers peace and wants to live in peace with the Palestinians? That has to be what we strive for.
They're insane. They're insane. It's so suicidal. Are these? I mean, genuinely, I ask a question: Are they? Is there some kind of like mental gap going on here? Do they not understand that Israel has tried to seek peace and offer all kinds of two-state solutions for 100 years, including what they did with Gaza? Do they not understand that that it's entirely the Palestinian side, the Arab side, that has rejected peace, that wants violence, that wants Israel gone. Talking about a ceasefire. Ceasefire so you can allow Hamas to continue doing what they do? Leaving the hostages there? Risk more security threats to your people? So many have fallen for the nonsense that all the Palestinians want is just a bit of self-determination. We gave it to them in 2005, and look what happened in Gaza. It's quite scary, isn't it? The cognitive dissonance, the total lack of critical thinking. What do you think it comes down to? I think it comes down to normalcy bias. It's just so outrageous. The other side, the Arab side, that we have to kind of normalize it and say, no, it must be something we're doing. It must be something, it must be something legitimate and just understandable that they want. No, they really want the Jewish state and Jewish people's security gone. And they don't seem to understand that. And Theroux visits Palestinian village of Beta and the nearby Israeli outpost of Eviatar. He frames settlers as violent extremists, but says nothing of Beta's riots, the flaming stars of David's, the Nazi swastikas. The context omitted.
Called Eviatar. It had started out as an outpost on the edge of the Palestinian town of Beta. It was only recognized as a settlement by the Israeli state a few months earlier.
Hi there, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you doing?
You must be Malkiel.
Yes, I am.
I'm Louis, how do you do?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Called Eviatar.
So, what we see here is total inversion of reality. There will be the odd incidents of violence on the Jewish settler side, often from it'll just be outlier kids that may have had very troubled childhoods, and you'll see that if we touch on the violence that has occurred in the Settlements documentary. It's also unsurprising that 100 years of genocidal desire from an Arab world and the Arab side, that you're going to get some outliers of violence. It's not to justify it for a second, but it's unsurprising that such a thing has happened. But the point is that this is such a small, tiny minority, whereas the majority of the Arabs in Judea and Samaria and Gaza supported October 7th, according to polling. So settler violence portrayed as rampant and unchecked. He never mentioned these acts are condemned by Israeli society and punished by law. Meanwhile, the PA says Palestinians who kill Jews that's never touched. Sorry, the PA pays Palestinians who kills Jews. That's never touched. That's the point again. It's total inversion of reality. The majority of Israelis want peace. There's a tiny minority that seem to be acting violent, whereas the majority of the Arabs, vast majority, want war, want to kill the Jews, want war against the Jewish state. A tiny minority, I don't even know who, wants peace. So again, Theroux has totally inverted reality. How this guy can claim to be an objective, fair and balanced journalist is beyond me. I mean, one of the things that I was unsure about sharing just because it's so heartbreaking, but will share with you, is that Eli Sharabi, who was one of the hostages that was freed, released, where he looked like a Holocaust survivor. And President Trump even said that, and I think he went to visit President Trump. He was held for over 400 days. He lost his wife and 2 daughters, found that out after coming out of the hell of Gaza. Can you imagine? I don't know how this man, honestly, I do not know how he's able to continue each day. That man has some level of divine strength. But my friend was listening to him speak at a synagogue yesterday. And you know what Eli Sharabi said? He said that he was more scared of the Gazan civilians than he was of his Hamas captors. Why? Because the Hamas captors they felt they had to protect him to use as a bargaining chip. But the civilians wanted his blood. They were like wolves and dogs that hadn't eaten in weeks and were just desperate to get the first bit of meat they could. And the Hamas captors were worried that if they lost sight of him for a second when they were transporting him from safe house to safe house, that they would just lynch him. And that's really, as painful and horrendous as that is, that really gets to the heart of the matter, which is that you're dealing with a people, the majority of whom are not interested in stated or a legitimate cause. They have a radical jihadist ideological hatred that Theroux not just ignores, but twists on its head. He makes them seem like the voiceless victims and the Jews as the crazy jihadists, as you'll see from this next clip. Look, a grotesque moment. Theroux calls Israelis sociopathic. Why? Sociopathic for caring about their own children than Palestinians. More than Palestinians. Would he dare say that about any other people? That's what this woman says in this clip.
Some 200,000 is an ancient biblical.
This documentary was storytelling with villains pre-assigned. Theroux didn't try to understand Israelis. He flattened them into caricatures, into people you're invited to hate, and the BBC approved every frame. Watch.
An ancient biblical city, home to some 200,000 Palestinians, a place holy to 3 major religions. Hi, how are you?
Where you guys from?
We're from British TV crew.
Notice how he doesn't say BBC. I can imagine he knows exactly why he's not saying BBC.
In 1968, the year after it was occupied by Israel, a community of Jewish settlers moved in illegally. They now number around 700, existing in a cordon of military protection. I visited in 2010 when I'd spent time with a settler leader. Now, 14 years on, I was curious about life within the Palestinian community. I'm Louis.
Hi, Louis. Nice
Issa.
to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Issa Amro, a Palestinian activist, was born here in the settler-occupied area.
By the way, Issa Amro is interviewed in this documentary I produced, just so you're aware.
You got fences all around?
All around. Fences from here.
Yeah.
This
Who lives on the other side?
Israeli settlers.
We've got army there. What are they doing? Have they come for a reason?
No, they come for intimidation.
How are you? They're not speaking, but I think what they would say is, well, we're here to provide security for the settlers who live here and want to live in peace and experience animosity from the Palestinians.
So they want to live in peace at the expense of my basic human rights. I didn't choose to live in Hebron. I was born in Hebron. It's my land. It's my homeland. The settlers chose to come here. And if it's not safe for them, why they continue building more and more settlements in my own city? By international law, the settlements are illegal. They don't see us as equal human beings who deserve the same rights they do.
Again, total inversion of reality. No, it's the Arab side that doesn't see Jews as equal human beings, that allows them to live in their ancient, historic homeland in peace alongside them. That's the root of this conflict. And he says, he'll lament the fact that you have the Israeli army there. Why are they there? Are they there to intimidate, or are they there because, again, it's cause and effect turned on its head? Are they there because actually there's deep Arab animosity and hatred and violence towards them that they're trying to protect Jews from? He talks about Hebron. There were massacres that Arabs carried out, pogroms against Jews in Hebron, this exact place, before Israel existed in the 20s. In the 20s. So where was the settlements then? Where was the Israeli presence then? It's a total unacceptable inversion of reality, and so that's why it's so important that you all learn the truth. So I'm going to show you the first part of this documentary that I produced, and I'll put the link at the end so you can watch it in full, because it's so important you get clued up on this. The documentary is called Settling the Facts. Let's make it go viral so that we can counter the nonsense, lies, and perversion that Theroux has posted on his new documentary. So here's the trailer, and then I'll put the link at the end to watch the full thing.
has long pursued a policy of building Jewish settlements on Arab land captured during the 1967 war. It insists it has the legal right to do this, but most of the world disagrees.
The White House has just put out a statement on Israeli plans to build new settlements in the West Bank, expand existing settlements at the same time.
Angering some Palestinians who say it legitimizes what they view as illegal Israeli settlements.
Settlements.
With settlements.
These settlements of
Settlement.
These settlements of.
If you've ever looked into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one of the words that will come up sooner or later is the settlements. Israelis who have built settlements in Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. The settlers, we are told, are extremists who are making a future peace between Israel and the Palestinians harder to achieve. Why? Because these settlements will make it more difficult to carve out a future Palestinian state. But who are these settlers? What is motivating them to live in these contentious regions? And are they making peace more difficult to achieve? My name is Roger Walters. I'm a British businessman. I have a deep love for Israel, and over the past few years, I've had a growing curiosity to understand the issues underlying Israel's settlements. So the best way to find out was to go and meet these settlers, to find out the human stories beneath the politics. In this documentary, I'm going to be speaking directly to the people living across these settlements, to put a human face on the people we are told are extreme ideologues. I'll also be speaking to Palestinians who live beside them, those who work with them and those who detest them. And I'll be speaking to advocates, politicians and legal experts on both sides of the debate to understand the moral, historical and legal issues that underlie this subject. Join me on my journey to settle the facts.